Welcome everybody. This is the second part of the Photoshop tutorial and we are going to continue where we left off. We started doing this collage where there is the statue wearing some glasses, and we have added some ribbons that go around the head. In this part we are going to make sure that we add some additional features. We explore Photoshop in more detail. We're going to see how we can select the color range from a photo and remove the color or add some additional color to replace that. We're going to have a look at blending modes, how we can manipulate our images and add some effects to that. We are going to see the clipping masks, how we can manipulate the background to add a little bit more texture, and we will finish the tutorial by adding some effects to our image and some adjustments so that it looks a little bit more interesting. The first part, as I said, is going to be the color range that we are going to see how this will work with a particular image that we're going to bring on the scene. I have selected here a couple of images that I thought it might look interesting to add them to our project. So some of these images, they might add a little bit of more information and make sure that it's not too much to distract the viewer from the project. I think the first one here looks quite good and I'm going to use this. I place it on my screen and I press enter the way it is at the moment. What I want to do is I want to remove the white part. Okay, make sure that it blends with the rest of the elements quite nicely. So I will be rasterizing the layer first. Come into the options of the layer. Now the object is rasterized. The second part would be to come to my menu and from this feature select color range, where this dialog box will open and I am able to set some parameters where I can select the color and later on remove it if I want. So here I have this little pipette, and where I click, it selects the color from that image, and here I can see that the white part is going to be utilized, selected, where I can later on remove it or manipulate it otherwise. If I select a different color, you will see that only that color is activated. Okay, I'm going to select just the white color, and the fuzziness is going to represent how much of the image we want to extract. All right, I think around 50 it might be a good value. Okay, so press OK, and now I can press delete, and this is what I got. I have to deselect my image, and this is my image. It might look too much of an information that it is there, and perhaps I should repeat the process. I believe this one is a good option. So I will be selecting this image here. It contains enough information. It will make our image a bit more interesting. At the moment I will go and select the color range, but before I do that I have to rasterize my layer so that I am able to manipulate it. Select color range and click on the white area. Here I have to ensure that my image is going to select enough white, not too much or too little. So I have to play around and make sure that there is enough white content removed. I press delete, and this is the result. I come here to move it around. This is the information that I cleaned from the original image. I will now take the layer and place it beneath all the rest of my elements, and I will move it around, perhaps place it somewhere behind my statue. I may make it a little bit larger, like that. It's enough. It's quite all right. So this adds a little bit more interesting information to our composition. If you would like to take it out, you say this is before and this is after. Here I could rename that splash, and I can proceed to some additional effects. Perhaps I would like to play a little bit with the face. Okay, so the face is as we extracted on the previous session, just the background, and I can play a little bit with, let's say, go on the lips and the hair and give a different color. In order to do that, I will go and select the statue object, okay, and I will go and get the lasso tool. So I will be clicking and trying to circulate around the lips like this, so I can get the shape of the lips where, okay, this looks quite good. I don't like very much this part. It should be a little bit closer. So I will repeat the process to make sure that it's a bit more accurate, and it creates a more interesting outcome. Right, this is quite good. Now I will press Command C, yeah, copy, edit, copy, and paste, Command V. This will create a new layer here on my Layers tab. If I click the statue and leave just the lips, you will see that I have been able to separate them, and I put the lips on top of my statue. I can rename this so that I know what that exactly is, and I think that's quite enough. Okay, it's in the same position. What I can do at the moment is play a little bit with the hue and the color of the lips. How would I do that? I have to go to select my image, adjustments, and hue and saturation. With the hue and saturation, I'm able to change the hue of our image. Yeah, and give this nice color. I may be able to combine it with this purple background somehow, give it a purple. Yeah, that looks quite interesting. This is my saturation, and perhaps I need a quite in around the middle, and the lightness perhaps somewhere around there. Looks quite good. Now, one thing I would like to mention is that my image here is blending quite nicely. Okay, perhaps I wanted to blend a little bit better with the background, and therefore I may be able to create some better transition. To do this, I will create a lasso circle, and I will select feather. I will give it a radius of 10. Oops, perhaps I should make a better circle, a larger circle, feather of 10, and it will create this shape. This shape now, it will help me when I press delete to be deleting around the circle 10 pixels with a fashion, specific fashion. So you will see that as I go and press these pixels here, they start blending a little bit nicer with my background. So this creates a little bit better transition with the image that it's on the back. Okay, so I did that. It looks a little bit nicer. I may be able to add some additional hue. So perhaps I can play with the saturation a little bit. I think around there is interesting. Okay, and of course it is up to you to experiment and come up with even better results, possibly. And I will continue with the hair. I will repeat the process. Now, in order to do the hair, I have to close the sunglasses so that it gives me a better view of the hair area. So I will continue and do the same thing. I will use a lasso. I think it's quite convenient now. And I do this, as I mentioned before, in order to be able to copy this layer to a new layer, to copy this part of the image, excuse me, to a new layer, and that new layer to make sure that we can add some hue, different colorization, and this will have a bit more interesting result. So this is totally fine if I do that. It doesn't affect the rest of the elements. It will affect only the statue. Great, it looks good. So I copy and paste. Now it didn't copy because my statue was not selected. I copy and paste. Okay, it was moved a little bit. I have to find the original position and make sure that it aligns perfectly with my, okay, is somewhere there. All right, great. I will repeat the process, go to image and adjustments and hue and saturation. Okay, looks good. For the hair, I'm considering some greenish. Yeah, great. Is interesting. As I did previously, I may want to repeat the feather process. So I can come here and do this mix to parts that I feel they need a little bit more blending together. Okay, perhaps this part needs some work. Okay, great. Okay, not too bad. Let's zoom out a bit and see how it looks like. Very, very cool. One thing that bothers me though is these pixels here. And I have to use my eraser and do this thing. Okay. So this is what we have at the moment. Here there might be some parts that they need a little bit better work, but it's not that bad. I will go and add the sunglasses, and it looks quite interesting actually. So for the next part, what I want to do is check out how I can create some clipping masks. And with the clipping masks, I can utilize some very complex patterns. Possibly, I could possibly use maybe this one here. Okay, press enter, bring it on the top. I will repeat the process and I will remove the white background, rasterize the layer, image adjustments, and excuse me, select color range, select my color, and make sure that I delete that bit. Cool. I will make it a little bit smaller, like that. Now here, with the clipping masks, if I have a complex pattern, a complex image, but I want to blend it with another texture, for example, to give it a different pattern, I can utilize clipping masks. To demonstrate that, I have a surface image here. I will bring it into my project, perhaps make it smaller a bit so that you can see, and I will place it on top of the image, the paint that I brought into my project just earlier on. So I go and select my layer and right click and create clipping mask. So now it created, based on the shape of the image that I had previously, the one with the paint, it pasted on top of that my new image that it has this specific texture that possibly I would like to have on my composition. Now, if I want, I can move the top layer around, okay, and position it to here. Now, if I want to select them both, I can link the layers, or I can rasterize them together, or I can convert them as a smart object, and now they are together as one object that I can manipulate, and I can transform and possibly do something interesting with them. Okay, I do this and put it on the background. If this works, then I can keep it. If it doesn't work, then I can just get rid of it. But at least it demonstrates the practice. It gives some different texture into the project and may make it, may vary its aesthetic quality. I close it for now, and what I'm going to do is I will bring some texture on the background to make it a bit more interesting. I have selected a few textures here. I will select this one, paste it. Now this image is really big, as the original quality is something like 4000, and I have to resize it. I Command T, and I have to make it much smaller for my project. So I leave it there and press enter. Because the background it's now too much, okay, I have to blend it with the background so that I can come to an interesting combination. From the layers panel, having selected the layer which is, let's say, texture, I can use the blending menu, and this one will allow it to be mixed with the background. Here I can come and select one of these options that look a little bit nicer. Perhaps linear burn is good, but it's also very intense and I want it to bring it down a little. I can play with the opacity of the layer and bring it to around, I don't know, like a percentage that it would make sense. Maybe here, okay, not too much, just to make it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more exciting. Here is fine. I will bring my splash a little bit to the left. Yeah, and this is what we have at the moment. For the next step, I will create a neon triangle by using the pen tool and blending options for that layer. I come here and I click on the pen tool. I make sure that the shape is selected. There is no fill and the stroke is white. The pixels 15 is a good number. So I come here and I click on 3 points. I click on this point, here, let's say here, and then close it back on the beginning. This gave me a nice triangle. I will place it on the top. I will place it on the top, and I come to the blending options of the layer. Selecting blending options, and I activate outer glow. So for the outer glow, I select a purple color and I set the opacity to close to 35, 40 is good. I can set the spread or the size of the glow, and I don't want to have too much, but enough. The next part would be to add also some inner glow to my object, and I will use a multiply 40%. Around 40% is a good number, and the size of 10 is also enough. Press OK, and now I have a new object that looks a little bit like a neon color. I would like to mix it with the head so that part of it comes on the front and another part comes on the back. I will create a clipping mask, a layer mask here, and I will select the layer mask. I make sure that I come a little bit closer and select the brush tool. With the brush tool selected, I can set the size and the hardness, and by selecting subtract and making sure that I have white color, I can come here, and by clicking I am able to remove parts of my triangle and continue clicking until it blends all the way down to here. Okay, cool. Right, so I go back a bit, and this is what I have at the moment. For any additional change that you would like to do, please feel free to manipulate in any way that you want. And the last thing I will show you today is the adjustment layers. The adjustment layers allows us to have a certain different composition settings, changing the color, the hue, the brightness, etc. First thing I will do is I will go to my adjustment panels, and when I click any of these adjustment panels, that it can be the brightness, curves, exposure, photo filters, and so on. By clicking any one of these, a new layer is created that it contains the settings of this selection. Here, for example, I have the brightness and contrast. If I add brightness, all the layers beneath that, they will going to be affected by the settings. And if I bring it down, you can see the differences in the result. Now I would like to use this for the background, the texture and the background, and I can play a little bit just to adjust that bit. Okay, this is just for the background. So I can make sure that it blends quite nicely with the foreground. Okay, I think this is okay. I will come again here and bring a new brightness to the top. Make sure that all of my project now is going to be blended together. Okay, maybe a little bit like this. Other options might include a photo filter. And I can select an option that it makes my project look nice. I will keep the magenta. Here I can select the density of the filter. I will make sure that it's not too much, like 20% is good enough. What we can do now is export it as we did last time. We can save it as the project and come to File, Export as a PNG image, and our result can be stored on our drive, and we can go and check the progress that we had. This is the image we finalized last time, and this is our current composition. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you very much.